Making machine learning accessible across the workplace, TIBCO's new Amazon SageMaker AutoPilot integration with Spotfire provides powerful AutoML capabilities for both data scientists and business analysts alike. AutoPilot optimizes the model creation process by testing out and finding the best model fit for your data. Beyond this, our dashboard automatically generates visualizations and model explainability ready for exploration within Spotfire. So, let's say that you have a business scenario and you want to understand certain variables or metrics, maybe the relationships between them, or maybe you even want to predict future values of key metrics. Here's where AutoPilot can be very handy. Our tool can take those broad ideas and give valuable insights. So now let's take a look. Let's start with the Spotfire dashboard that we developed especially to integrate with SageMaker AutoPilot. We'll jump in where many users might find themselves, visualizing their data and trying to explore possible relationships between variables. So we've done so here by creating a couple of scatter plots and box plots. And what we're trying to do is find which variable we want to predict in our data set. Here, quality has certain relationships with other variables and might be something we want to look further into. So today what we're going to do is we're going to use Amazon's SageMaker, which is AWS's data science offering, and its tool AutoPilot to help us better understand our data through automated machine learning. So going to the top left, all we have to do is configure a couple of variables like an AWS access key, AWS secret key, and after doing so, we'll just have to fill out 4 configurations for our actual data. So this is as simple as setting a unique job ID to remember this job, picking then a column to predict. So this is looking at all the features in your data set, all of the columns, and picking which one you want to predict. Then a problem type. So these are the different types of machine learning problems. But if you don't know which one it is, you can just let AutoPilot decide. And then finally, just a max number of candidate models, which essentially asks how many configurations do you want AutoPilot to try out. If you make it larger, it might take a little longer to run, but may give you better accuracy, or shorter, doing the opposite. So after doing so, all I have to do now is click this Run Amazon SageMaker AutoPilot button. And what's going to happen is our data will be sent out into Amazon SageMaker in S3, and our process will be kickstarted. After giving the AutoPilot job its time to complete, you'll be automatically taken to the AutoPilot Job Results tab, where you can learn more about the results of the job. So on the top left, you see some variables about the job, how long it took, and the certain training metric that it used to evaluate the model. So here we have a training score and a validation score. And what you're looking at here is AutoPilot's best model. So what AutoPilot does is it tries out all these different models on different configurations, and it finds the one that best fits your data. So, and then you'll see the results of this on the top and the bottom. So on the top here is our AutoPilot validation set with its predictions. So it's common in machine learning to split your data into a training set, which is what the model uses to learn on, and then something like a validation set where that model is then executed on unseen data. And this is basically a way for us to get a good gauge on how well the model performs. So on the top, it has the validation set with its predictions, and here they'll be colored on the same scale, so and side by side, so we can compare how well the prediction matched up with the actual quality based on how these colors look next to each other. So colors that are closer together indicate a better prediction, whereas ones that have a higher contrast might be not as good predictions. Then on the bottom, we have a visualization that is generated based on whether this is a regression or a classification problem. So here for a regression problem, what this is going to show you is your prediction matched up with the actual variable. In this case, it's quality. And this is just a scatter plot for you to assess how well these two matched up. And then when it's a classification problem, it'll automatically generate a confusion matrix, which is a common way to visualize the results of a classification. In addition to this page, we also have a model explainability page for further insights into our model. So after going to this page, what the main metric that we're using is something called SHAP. And SHAP is essentially just a variable importance metric for you to understand how much a variable played into the model's decision making. So on the top left here, we have all the variables sorted by their SHAP value. So at the very top here, we have alcohol. And what it found was the model thought that alcohol was the most important variable when making its determination. And after clicking on it, on the bottom left, we have a scatter plot, a variable with quality. And then on the top right, we have the distribution of all the SHAP values for alcohol. And what this is each row will be given its own SHAP score, and that is how much sway in this model's prediction a variable had. So you'll see that compared to all the other variables here, alcohol has a pretty high SHAP value. And with this, I guess this makes a little bit of sense because it's saying that the higher the alcohol content, in general, the higher the quality. So we see that in its distribution on the bottom right. I guess if we were to look at some of the other variables here, maybe if we look at residual sugar, this is a little bit below 0 here, meaning that when it's a little bit more sugary and less dry in your wine, maybe that can lead to a lesser quality. Now that we've learned a little bit more about our model, there's going to be a couple of ways that we can execute this model on future data. The first is doing this in batch mode, and this is, I have a couple weeks worth of new data. I want to make a model prediction, and all you have to do is just leave this as batch with the AutoPilot job name and click Run AutoPilot Model. And what this will do is similarly to before, it'll have a table with the prediction and actual side by side, as well as a histogram of all the predictions. So that's the batch mode. In addition to this, you can also create a model endpoint. And what this will do, it'll create basically a model that is ready to score on real-time data. So if you just move this to real-time endpoint with that job name, you can then basically get instantaneous scores on data streams on real-time data. And that wraps up the demo in Spotfire. Now we'll learn more about how we can utilize AutoPilot. So what are some examples of AutoPilot use cases? So who can really use it? Well, the answer is just about anyone. So the data scientist is going to be able to get insights deeper into the models and the complex configurations that it might have. The business analyst will be able to get the basically boxed up machine learning that can help them understand their data better, as well as even just the domain expert who doesn't need to really know every single term in there, but can still get the insights into their data and the types of variables that are important and things like that. And the use cases can span across industry because it's not really about the specific domain. It's mostly, do you have a variable that you want to learn more about? And AutoPilot can help you do that. The architecture of our solution is pretty simple. It uses TIBCO Spotfire as its front end, so basically what we've seen today. But on the back end is Amazon SageMaker, and this is where all the model creation and testing out of all these different configurations is happening. And then the data and artifacts of Amazon SageMaker will be stored within S3. And then the results of the Amazon AutoPilot job will be seen just back in Spotfire, basically like we've shown today. So what's great about this is it uses the easy to use, simple nature of Spotfire along with the powerful backend of AWS's tools. And to wrap up, I'd like to remind you that this dashboard is available on the TIBCO community for you to download and try out with your own data. So feel free to go do so. Just all you have to do is feed in your own data and you can run this process similarly to how I've done so today. Thank you for watching and have a great rest of your day.